Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's Trucks Rewind, we're looking back at Friday's 11th annual Camping World 225, 150 laps, 225 miles, around the mile and a half, Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet, Illinois. 5 caution flags in this race for a total of 27 laps, so if that tells you anything, there wasn't a lot happening in this race, but it was a pretty good race. Even though there weren't a lot of incidents, there was some good racing overall. The drama started very early. This didn't bring out a caution, but Ben Rhodes blew his engine on the initial green flag. They didn't even barely get the race started. He didn't even make it to turn 1, and there was smoke billowing out of the rear of the car. Apparently wasn't putting any fluid down, I guess, so there wasn't a caution for this. But there was a caution shortly thereafter at lap 7 when the 3 of Jordan Anderson spun in turn 4. Lap number 35, Stage 1 concluded. Your Stage 1 winner would be Brandon Jones, who took the lead from Grant Enfinger on the final lap of Stage 1 to put the 51 car up for another stage victory. Lap 44, caution number 3 on the day, as the 4 of Todd Gilliland and the 54 of Natalie Decker got together off turn 4. Make contact. Decker spins off the nose of Gilliland into the grass on the front stretch. Luckily didn't really get any damage from this, and she was able to rebound fairly well from this, actually. Stage 2 concluded at lap 70. Grant Enfinger would be your Stage 2 winner. Final caution of the day came at lap number 80 as the 22 of Austin Wayne Self, the 44 of Spencer Davis, and the 98 of Grant Enfinger all got together off turn 4. And that sent Davis spinning into the front stretch grass. Kind of ruined the day a little bit for Grant Enfinger, who had a fairly fast truck before this. Didn't lead the most laps, but was one of the more dominant trucks early on in the race. 12 lead changes among 7 drivers. Brett Moffitt led the most laps, 72. Grant Enfinger right behind him at 49 laps led. 13 laps went to Brandon Jones. 11 laps led by Austin Hill. 2 laps apiece went to Sheldon Creed and Camden Murphy, and 1 lap was led by Spencer Boyd. Alright, so on to your results. Brandon Jones won the first stage. Grant Enfinger won the second stage. Brett Moffitt led the most laps. Grant Enfinger also led a lot of laps. So, who would come out on top in this one? It would be Brett Moffitt for the second year in a row from Chicago in the unsponsored 24 truck this week. It's been a while since I think we've seen a fully unsponsored truck go to victory lane. Surprisingly enough, Brett Moffitt actually never took an unsponsored truck to victory lane last year when he was with Hattori Racing. And that was a year that they thought they weren't even going to be able to make every race because they didn't have sponsorship, and somehow they were able to scrape it together for every race. Didn't happen last year, but now Brett Moffitt has finally taken an unsponsored truck to victory lane here at Chicagoland. His second win again in a row at Chicago, as he did put that 16 truck in victory lane here at Chicago last year. Brandon Jones came home with a strong second place finish. Kept that 51 truck up front most of the night. Just didn't quite have enough for Moffitt at the end. Stuart Friesen came home third. Harrison Burton with a strong top 5 in fourth. And a good run for Austin Hill in fifth. The rest of your top 10, Todd Gilliland in sixth. Ross Chastain in seventh. Good points night for him. Wasn't really a contender for the win, but did what he needed to do and marched much closer to that top 20 in points. Matt Kraft in 8th, Anthony Alfredo with a strong top 10 in 9th, and Dylan Lupton puts a third DGR Crosley truck in the top 10 in 10th. 11th through 20th, Sheldon Creed down here in the 11th position. He had a fast truck early on, was up in the top 5, and then got into the wall after getting a little over anxious on a pass. I believe it was on Anthony Alfredo at the time, and got into the wall And the truck never really was completely right after that, and he ended up one lap down in 11th. Good run for Tyler Dipple in 12th. These Young's Motorsports trucks really impressed me this weekend. I think they are finally turning the corner a little bit. I don't know that they're really race-win contending trucks yet, but those Young's Motorsports trucks do seem to have some speed to them right now. And 13th down here for Tyler Ankrum, third DGR Crosley truck on the lineup here with his teammate Natalie Decker right behind. So all four DGR Crosley trucks in the top 15 in this race. So a good outing for DGR Crosley. I'm sure they would like to improve on that even more, but they're making some steps in the right direction. I mean, it's no secret that the truck program really has probably been the weakest of the DGR Crosley operations between Truck, ARCA, and K&N, but they seem to be making strides in that department, and putting all four trucks in the top 15 is definitely a step in the right direction, especially when two of those are in the top 10. Gus Dean down here in 15th, putting another Young's Motorsports truck in the top 15. Grant Enfinger, after such a strong early portion of the race, led 49 laps, second in the first stage, won the second stage. He ends up in the 16th position. Johnny Sauter, engine issues for him, on and off pit road all night, ended up 3 laps down in the 18th position. 21st through 30th, Austin Wayne Self, down here in the 25th position. Spencer Davis, after his incident, came home in the 27th position. Final page, Joey Gase and Ben Rhodes, 31st and 32nd. Ben Rhodes only completing 1 lap in this race. Not the day that Ben Rhodes or that 99 team was looking for. All right, so that's your results from the Camping World 225. So let's head over to the Media Center, and we will see what Brett and his team had to say after their second win of the season.
It was the whole team. We had a really good Chevy Silverado. Jerry and the guys gave me a fast truck and a drivable truck. And it's one thing to have speed. It's one thing to be able to move top to bottom and have speed everywhere you go. So pit stops, if you can make up ground, it's always a big plus. But I felt like we had a truck capable of passing trucks, especially on the long run. We didn't really fall off much, and I could get up to the fence and be able to have good speed. So I'll always take coming off pit road first, but I feel like a hell of a lot more than that went into winning this race.
The statement is that the winning race truck is available for sponsorship to those organizations that want to be a member of a winning team and future championship team, I believe, I dare say right now. We're consistent in our messaging. You know, I started out in this business with the feeling that this race team is my family, and something I've always had through and through is, you know, as a driver, whenever someone else is in victory lane, there's a part of you that will forever instinctually hate that. But for the rest, it's true. You know, you always hate seeing someone else win. If you don't hate watching someone else in victory lane, get the hell off the racetrack. You never belong there in the first place. But at the same time, when that driver is wearing the 3 letters across his chest that matter, that's a win for Spencer right there. I care about GMS more than anything. So as long as I get to see our trucks in victory lane, I get to go home a happy guy, and I get to sleep good at night.
All right, so let's take a look at your playoff grid before wrapping up here tonight. Obviously now with Brett Moffitt having 2 wins, that moves him to the top of the playoff grid. Ross Chastain still not technically in the playoffs, but he moved much closer this week, currently 24th in points now, 10 points behind Jennifer Jo Cobb, who currently sits in the 20th position. So I think we can safely say at this point Ross Chastain will be in the playoffs. Even if he's got a terrible race in 2 weeks at Kentucky, which I don't foresee happening, 10 points is not that much to make up. So at this point, I think we can safely say Ross Chastain is in the playoffs. And that makes things a little tougher to figure out here at the cutoff line. Now, with Ben Rhodes having such a bad race out at lap 1, 32nd, it looked like Harrison Burton was going to have an extremely tough time pointing his way back in over Ben Rhodes now that Ross Chastain is all but in the playoffs. But that may not be the case now. With Harrison Burton finishing 4th and Ben Rhodes finishing 32nd, that has closed the gap at the cutoff line now to 13 points. Harrison Burton still has a fighting chance of pointing his way in without winning. But what happens if Todd Gilliland or Sheldon Creed wins a race? Which Todd Gilliland has been running better lately, finishing 2nd at Gateway, finishing 6th this week at Chicago. It's not out of the realm of possibility Gilliland wins a race. Sheldon Creed has been faster lately. It's not out of the realm of possibility that either one of them wins, and then that makes it even harder again for Harrison Burton. So we've got a really good battle shaping up here at the bottom of the playoff grid, and Ross Chastain getting into the playoffs has created this, because if it weren't for Ross Chastain being in the playoffs right now, or really almost in the playoffs, technically not yet, but basically in the playoffs, if he weren't in this conversation, the cutoff line would be between Harrison Burton and Todd Gilliland, and they've got 45 points separating them. Harrison Burton would need to have a couple of bad races for Gilliland to fight his way back from that deficit. Harrison Burton now has a fighting chance of pointing his way in with Ben Rhodes, but that's only because Ben Rhodes had the blown engine this week from Chicago. So anything can happen here in these final races leading up to the playoffs. I'm excited to see how this plays off, because this is going to get good here to see who gets in the playoffs and who doesn't. Currently, we have all 4 ThorSport trucks in the playoffs. At this rate, I don't think they're all going to make the playoffs. At the rate we're going, I think 1 KBM truck now does make the playoffs, maybe 2, and then if Sheldon Creed makes the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen here. So this is shaping up to get really good in these final races before the playoffs. I am 100% invested in seeing what happens with the Truck Series here as we get closer to the playoffs. This is getting good. But that is your playoff grid following the Camping World 225, and I believe that'll do it for us on this Trucks Rewind. Xfinity Rewind coming up tomorrow evening on Saturday evening for their race in Chicago. K&N West is in Roseburg, Oregon tomorrow evening late. I believe, what is the start time for that? It's going to be about 10:55 p.m. Eastern. So that rewind is probably not going to go up until Sunday evening, probably right before the Cup Rewind, because I don't know how I ended up on this schedule, but I have to be at the day job at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, so probably not going to be able to stay up late enough to do that rewind on Saturday night, so I do apologize for that. But the K&N West Rewind should go up sometime Sunday evening, just before the Cup Rewind, and then Cup Rewind, of course, Sunday evening for their race in Chicago as well. But so if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. But at that, this has been the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.